Hello Internet, it's David from Dr. C's AT. This is my Oh My video, talking about what we learned last week, specifically the definition of idea and how it impacts our current teaching experiences, and an explanation of the first thing that we will do differently based on what we learned this week. So first of all, in terms of a running definition of idea, I thought that the LD Online article did a really good job of just kind of highlighting what this law is meant to do, specifically the purpose section. Just a few highlights is that it ensures all children with disabilities have free and appropriate public education that is designed to meet their unique needs, and that the rights of these children are protected. It assists states and other parties in the implementation of services for infants and toddlers with disabilities and for their families. That I did not know. Actually, that's something I learned new. Ensures educators and parents have necessary tools to improve education. That would include AT, and to assess and ensure that the effectiveness of these of the teaching for these children. Another thing I talked about at the beginning was least restrictive environment, which we've talked about in some of our other classes, and that reminded me image we've seen where it's like a pyramid, and it's the most restrictive environment at the top, which would be like the hospital or homebound, and least restrictive at the bottom, which is the general education classroom. I actually think there's another category below general education classroom. I think the least restrictive environment is the general education classroom with assistive technology. And again, that might be implied, but especially just reading some of these articles, I think that is really the least restrictive environment for a student. And I came to that realization reading the other article by Mittler, when he talks about one small but important change they made in 2004 was they replaced the word requires with the word needs. And he even talks about how that might be really confusing why they made that change and when you try to decipher it. I think they made that change because you're trying not to paint a student with a broad brush and not define them by their disability. A thing that I would change moving forward, but the big takeaway for me is I would want to make sure I have a large resource collection that I could use for a specific disability and not just one. What might work for a student with a specific disability, what a piece of technology or a modification that might work for one student might not work for another student, because that student is not their disability. That student is the student, and they just happen to have a disability, and we need to make sure we're giving them the right piece of technology or modification. So that's probably my biggest takeaway from this first module, and thing that I would change moving forward.